Let's talk about how to use a offset path to take type and create this sort of outlined look around it. These look very similar, but they are fundamentally different from each other. The one on top, this is type and edit, is actually still live editable text. We could retype new words, we could correct spelling errors, we could change the font or whatever. The one on the bottom, zooming in on it, looking at it in outline view, this one has been converted, the type has been converted to outline, so they're shapes, and the outline itself around it. You don't see it in the live editable text one. It's there just as an appearance, but the one down below, it's actually been expanded so that for something like a vinyl cutter, where you would need to know all of the paths that the blade needs to move around on to cut this out of the material, this would be really important. For something like a poster, where you just want the look of it, doesn't really matter if you have things outlined. So let's talk about the different ways to do these two approaches. So firstly, we'll duplicate our type here, and this is the one that we'll apply this look to. So I have it selected. From within appearance, I'm going to add a fill to it, and in this case I'll just make that fill bright green. I'm then going to duplicate the fill by holding down Alt or Option and dragging, and the duplicate I'll change to yellow. Now it's not going to look like anything happened because right now that fill is behind the other one, perfectly aligned, but it's there. But when I click on that and go to path, offset path, and let's just leave the values, like this, seems like a good distance, call it good. Then we can see, okay, now that path has been expanded by that amount, looks bigger. And then from there, we can take stroke and just add a black stroke. Now initially, it's going to conform to the original path, but we can also expand the stroke to be larger than the original path. And so the same way, effects, path, offset path, and this value right here is going to offset it to the same distance as the underlying yellow path. Now this looks weird, compared to the ones over here, and that's because right now this offset path, this stroke, is being uniformly applied to each of these individual letters. And like I said, these are editable letters, and we can still go in and change things around. So it's just treating them as individual. But we can select this object, go back to stroke on it, and then also from within effects, there are Pathfinder options. And so clicking Pathfinder and then going to add will then essentially combine all of those outer strokes together, make it look just like one outline going around the outside of every shape there. So this approach is going to be similar. Now what I've done here is I have duplicated the text already. This is still just live text. So what I'm going to do is take this and apply a fill to it. So let's add a fill. We'll make the fill blue. And it looks like I have a duplicate fill on top somehow, so I'm just going to get rid of that. The stroke here, in this case, we can change it to red. That's the color we're going to want it to be once we offset it. Right now, it's just hugging that original shape there. So we'll take stroke, go to Effects, Path, Offset Path, and set the value to just the same as it was before. And actually what I want to do is go in and instead of this being a miter, I want it to be more of a rounded, curving edge instead of a hard straight edge. So we'll click round there, and then from there we can increase the weight of it a little bit so that it's 3-point, and then we have to do the same thing as before. Select the object, go to Effects, go to Pathfinder, click Add. And then this is getting pretty close, right? But if we look at this in outline view, it's, for the purposes of something like a vinyl cutter that needs to know where all the lines are, it would have no idea. So we do have to, firstly, for the type, you could go in and create outlines on the type. But in this case, what we'll do is just select everything, and we're going to go up to Object and then Expand Appearance. And it does an initial expand there, but it's still not really honing in on, it's just telling us what the new path is. So we actually need to select it and go to Expand one more time, and then we'll just say expand the object, the fill, and the stroke. Just expand everything here. Click OK. And then when we look at this in outline view, we can start to see these outlines. Now the inner ones, I don't really like the look of them, and so you can go in and just start to delete. I'm just using direct selection tool, clicking an anchor point and pressing delete 2 times on these inner parts that I don't want. I could go in and erase them or whatever too. From there, that could be as good as you need it to be. Or you might start to look at it and say, these are not rounded. This is, coming to a flat, instead of a nice point, is sort of flattening off. And so then you start to go in, and oftentimes after you expand something, you need to do some cleanups. So I'm adding an anchor point. I'm deleting these other anchor points, right? And then I might need to change the position of these. I might need to go in with convert anchor point tool, for example, and turn these into curves, and then break them apart, and just refine some things as needed to make this look just how I want it to. I could also go into something like these, select the path, and then with something like pencil tool, just refine that curve, and I could do that for all of these until it starts to look nice and curvy everywhere and really elegant. But this looks good enough for now, and so yeah, that's the basics of how to use offset path. You can have multiple offset paths and create more than one outline, but this is the basis of starting down that road of creating this look.